Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be looking at something that's going to prove to be nostalgic for me possibly, but we're going to be looking at Rob Zombie's newest track. About 5 days ago he released a new track, and when I say nostalgic for me, I mean the fact that I have been a fan of Rob Zombie for many years. I remember first hearing Welcome to Planet Mother on MTV when MTV played music, and I absolutely fell in love with the band because it was unlike anything I'd ever actually heard before at the time. It was the first time I'd ever heard, well, basically almost rapping in a metal song. You know, it was quite heavy, it had that industrial sort of sound to it. It was very different, and it was very cool. And he had that unique voice that Rob Zombie just has. So, you know, I really enjoyed White Zombie back in the day, and then, you know, I sort of got into his solo career, although I sort of lost interest with him after his second solo album, The Sinister Urge, when he released, what was that other one? What was it called? Wild Horses or something like that? Something Horses. You know, I thought he was sort of starting to fall off, and, you know, I wasn't enjoying his music quite as much, so I sort of not so much lost interest. I mean, I still listened to it, but I didn't listen to it nearly as much, and I wasn't as interested in discovering new music. But anyway, for anybody who doesn't know who Rob Zombie is, where the hell have you been? We'll have a little bit of a discussion about who he is. There was so much information to go through on him that, you know, I had to try and trim it down, and even so, I've still got quite a bit. Rob Zombie, born Robert Barclay Cummings, but has since changed his name legally to Rob Zombie, is an American singer, songwriter, filmmaker, and voice actor. Founding member of the heavy metal band White Zombie, and with whom he released 4 studio albums. He released the album Soul Crusher in 1987, Make Them Die Slowly in 1989, both of them not really released to much fanfare, you know, this sort of obscure, rather unknown albums by the band. Then went on to release Las Exorcisto, Devil Music Volume 1, which came out in 1992, which of course, you know, the opening track is Welcome to Planet Mother, which is the first track I ever heard by the band. And, you know, that's the sort of one that brought them fame, although it didn't really enter the Billboard 200 charts until a year after its release. Then along came Astro Creep 2000, Songs of Love, Destruction, and Other Synthetic Delusions of the Electric Head, which is the album that really made them popular and had, like, the track More Human Than Human, which has been used in a few films before he even moved on to directing, I believe. You know, I've heard it quite a few things. He is the older brother of Spider-One, who is the lead vocalist of the industrial metal band Powerman 5000. I did not know that before, so there we go. The band White Zombie disbanded in 1998 after they released an album of remixes called Super Sexy Swingin' Sounds. Rob then obviously focused on his solo career. He actually started his solo career before White Zombie broke up. He released his first solo track in 1996, a track called Hands of Death, Burn Baby Burn, which was written and performed with Alice Cooper. I mean, if you're going to do it well, you know. And his debut album followed in 1997, Hellbilly Deluxe. And he has released 4, maybe 5 solo albums, along with several best-ofs and remixes, as he did with White Zombie before then. He's also gone on to direct several films like House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects, Halloween and Halloween 2 remakes. He's even done some TV. He directed like an episode of CSI Miami, and he's provided voices on other productions, such as he provided some voice acting on Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2 as a Ravager Navigator and an off-screen Ravager voice, respectively. And he's also done other voice acting in things like the animated new Spider-Man animated series and Justice League. So, you know, he's quite a versatile person. And he's done quite a lot of things. Now, like I said, about 5 days ago, he released a new track called Triumph of Freak King, a Crypt of Preservation and Superstition. He has a habit of very long titles. I have no idea what this is going to be like, because, I mean, he hasn't actually released anything new in quite a while, music-wise. And like I said, after his later solo releases, I kind of got a bit disheartened with his music. You know, it wasn't as interesting, and it didn't sound as good as his earlier stuff. So, you know, we'll see where this goes. So, yeah, I've been waffling on for nearly 6 minutes now, but like I said, there was a lot of information on the guy. So we'll jump into the track now. I'm just going to call it Triumph for Freak King, or King Freak, should I say. And, yeah, we'll see what this turns out like. I do have some lyrics here. They came from underneath the video, so they should be accurate. Let's go. And there we go. King Freak. I'm not going to say the whole title. By Rob Zombie. And that track actually reminded more of White Zombie than it did of Rob Zombie's solo stuff. Obviously, when he brought out the first Hellbilly Deluxe, it had a very sort of White Zombie sort of vibe to it, but he sort of drifted away from that as his albums went on. But, you know, even just something as simply as the musical style of that track actually reminded me more of White Zombie than it did of Rob Zombie's solo stuff. Especially right towards the end with that sort of electronic digital sort of bit going on. It's a very catchy track, I will give him that, and, you know, of course he brings back his very unique, very recognisable vocal style. I mean, you couldn't really mistake him for anybody else out there. There's nobody else that sounds like Rob Zombie, you know. As is usual with Rob Zombie, most of his songs, music, revolve around sort of freak show, carnival, old Hammer horror movie sort of thing. So there's not really generally much of a deep sort of meaning to his music. It's literally just entertainment rather than like trying to portray a specific message. And the lyrics are fairly simple, but they're effective. And it goes, King Freak gathering the brains of hyenas. King Freak drinking blood in the arena. King Freak taste the vectors of disease. King Freak destroy you while you're on your knees. I'm going to say it's a chorus, but it's the only bit of the song that's actually repeated. And it says, we ain't your execution. We ain't your head pollution. We ain't your flock of sheep. We ain't your minds to read. King Freak circling a legion of doom. King Freak exploding with a sonic boom. King Freak ringing your cathedral's bells. King Freak calling from the mouth of hell. And it goes back into that chorus. We ain't your execution. We ain't your head pollution. We ain't your flock of sheep. We ain't your minds to read. And the crows will dig your grave. I do not forgive, I do not save. And the crows will dig your grave. I do not forgive, I do not save. King Freak carve an X into your head. King Freak dripping deeper in the red. King Freak gathering sharks in the shallows. King Freak elevator to the gallows. So, you know, there's not really a hugely deep sort of meaning or moral in the song. It's unless I'm really missing something. So, you know, it is typical, just purely there for entertainment value piece of music. And like I said, it is catchy as hell. And like I said, it also reminded me of sort of his early stuff, sort of like the sort of transition between White Zombie and his solo career. You know, so it was pretty good. And, you know, as far as I remember, it's been actually quite a while since he actually last released any music. So, you know, it's good to hear him back again. And, I mean, back in the day, Rob Zombie used to be the music I would listen to before going out of an evening. Like, if I was going out to a club or something with friends, I would listen to Rob Zombie whilst I was getting ready to go out. You know, it was just one of those things, you know. And he was hugely popular amongst my friends back in the day when I was young, you know. So, you know, he's been quite a big influence in music for me personally, and you know, all over the place he's been very popular and that sort of thing. So, you know, it's good to hear more music coming back out from him, and, you know, to notice that maybe he's sort of stepping back to his older sort of style, because like I said, I kind of lost interest in his music in sort of later years because it just didn't seem to be as good. Can't remember the name of the album. Because, I mean, he released like Past, Present and Future, which was like the, you know, it was essentially a best of, and then he did another best of album, and then Educated Horses, that's the one I was trying to think of. You know, that wasn't as good. You know, it didn't sort of live up to the old standard of like even the Sinister Urge. And then of course he released Hellbilly Deluxe, which, I mean, that was back in 2010, and as far as I know, he hasn't actually released anything since that. Hellbilly Deluxe 2. I don't know if he's actually released anything since then, and, you know, I've listened to that album, you know, a couple of times. It's not a bad album by any means, I just didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed, say, Hellbilly Deluxe Volume 1 or Sinister Urge. So, you know, I never disliked any of his music, it just didn't feel the same. It wasn't the same sort of quality as his earlier music, but this sort of seems to be stepping back in that direction, and I really like it. You know, simplistic in its own way, but very entertaining, very catchy. I like it. So, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. Yeah. So if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so by all means. You can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or even message me through my Patreon, where you could help to support this channel, which would be a great help to me. There is an option on Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue, should you so desire. There are a couple of limitations on that, though, to be fair to people of the, you know, to fairness of people who suggest tracks through regular means, like messages through Facebook and Instagram, or, you know, YouTube comments. Just so that they don't get drowned out, and I'm only ever doing videos from Patreon. You know, people in the comments and YouTube, you know, Facebook and Instagram need to get a fair shot. So there are a couple of limitations. And those of you who do suggest tracks through Facebook, YouTube and Instagram, there is a chance it might take me a while to get around to your tracks, since I do get suggested so many tracks every single day that I can't record them quick enough, and, you know, there are just so many of them. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it'll get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get around to it, I'm afraid. Also, Metalhead Reacts is proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose main goal is to put an end to hate crimes, mainly those aimed towards people of the alternative culture. But, you know, essentially they want to end all hate crimes, which is it's a very noble thing to do. It's a logical thing to do, and it's something I really get behind. It's something I believe in very, very strongly. And, you know, hate crimes against people of the alternative culture is something I really strongly believe in, because it's something I've had to deal with for most of my life. It's something that many of my friends and many of my family members have had to deal with as well. And it's something that gets widely ignored and doesn't get spoken about nearly as much as it needs. Because, you know, like, all over the world, every single day, people from the alternative culture are getting violently attacked just purely because of their taste in music and, you know, the clothes that they wear. And, you know, this goes unreported. You know, nothing gets said and nothing gets done. And, you know, we're not just talking about names being shouted at them from across the street, or, you know, getting shoulder rammed as they walk down the road. No, we're talking about real violent crimes where people are getting brutally attacked and beaten to within an inch of their life just because of their taste in music. And, you know, every day we hear about all these other hate crimes like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, etc. We hear these on a daily basis, from the most heinous and violent of these crimes, where someone is murdered because of the colour of their skin, their sexual identity, their religious beliefs, etc., down to the most petty and pathetic of these crimes, where some entitled white woman is calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space, God forbid. You know, we hear every facet of these every single day in every kind of media, but we don't hear anything about these people that are beaten close to death just because of their taste in music. You know, the last time there was any widespread coverage of this was 13 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently and brutally attacked by a group of 5 or 6 people and beaten so severely that they both ended up in comas. Now, Rob Maltby, he did, thankfully, survive. He was in a coma for around about a week, maybe a bit longer, I can't remember exactly. But he did thankfully survive. Sophie Lancaster, on the other hand, was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and she was beaten to death by a group of people just purely because she listened to alternative music and wore alternative fashion. And like I said, this happened 13 years ago, and that's the last time there was any widespread coverage of this. But since that happened, in that 13-year space, several hundred, maybe even 1,000 people from the alternative community have been attacked in a similar fashion, and we've not heard a goddamn thing about it. And that's because no one's died. And that's unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before this subject gets spoken about, before something gets done to put an end to it. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to bring more attention to the fact that this sort of thing is happening. They want to help put an end to this sort of thing from happening again. They don't want to see another family go through what they went through when they had to sit there and watch their daughter slowly die over the course of 2 weeks. They don't want to see what happened to Sophie Lancaster ever happen again. It's something that never, ever should have happened in the first place, but we most certainly cannot allow it to happen again. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before this subject gets spoken about. So if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there is a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their main goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, whether it's like a small donation through their website or something as simple as one of these wristbands, or maybe even one of these, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any way, the smallest amount can make the biggest difference. And the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we bring more recognition to the fact that this sort of thing is happening, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.